ready to strike once again. Hello, everyone. I'm Gary Gerald, and it's with a great deal of anticipation that we welcome you back to the Summer Nationals to see if Don Prudhomme can defend his championship at this racetrack. Already, he has set a new track record, a blistering 5.27 seconds that makes him the #1 funny car qualifier. And he's getting ready now to make a bid for an unprecedented 7th NHRA Budweiser Summer National Championship run. You'll see it on Sports World.
The following NBC Sports program is pre-recorded.
For 20 years, the Summer Nationals marked the traditional midpoint of the NHRA championship season. It's one of 3 events covered on Sports World annually. When we last left the NHRA Superstars, it was the season-opening Winter Nationals in Pomona. And in the winner's spotlight were names like Gary Ormsby, Bruce Larson, and Bob Glidden. Ormsby in Top Fuel has gone on to a tremendous year, the best of his career. He's won 4 times out of 8 events this season. He leads the championship point standings. He comes to this event fresh from a victory in Montreal. Larson was a surprising winner over Bernstein in the Winter Nationals, and he has maintained the #1 spot in the point standings and has added 1 other Spring Nationals victory. But Bernstein, in a bid now for an unprecedented 5th World Championship, is closing the points battle. In Pro Stock, it's been Glidden all the way. Notoriously a bad early season starter, he not only won at Pomona, but he's won 4 times since. He clearly dominates that division. But there's been a major story pertaining to Bob Glidden this weekend in the Summer Nationals. And with that story, our colleague Steve Evans.
Well, Gary, there's a huge crowd in the Bob Glidden pits, but they're really mourners because earlier today, in the first round of Pro Stock, something that seldom occurs happened. Bob Glidden was defeated the first time he went to the starting line. Now, in characteristic Glidden style, he came in here in qualifying and terrified the competition. Track record, 7.34 seconds. Track record speed, 188. But in round number 1, he met up against Butch Leal, who told me he woke up feeling good this morning about it.
I'm a very positive person, and today I was more positive than ever. I woke up and I said, this is it. We got it.
Great job.
Thank you, Steve.
So with that red car in its trailer, Pro Stock becomes literally a toss-up among about 6 different drivers. Gary?
Now, Steve, while that was going on pertaining to Glidden, there's been other dramatic developments pertaining to Gary Ormsby. We outlined his great success of this season, but just a few moments ago, during a routine warm-up session, a fuel valve jammed open. It fed the engine fuel. They unplugged the fuel valves, the fuel pumps. They couldn't terminate the flow of fuel. It was a potentially very dangerous situation. Other drivers came running to the aid, including Darrell Gwynn and Dick LaHaye. They brought fire extinguishers, injected halon into the injector, snuffed out all the oxygen. That shut the engine down, and it diffused what it could have been a devastating and potentially very dangerous situation. Now, for some insight into what this all means, our other broadcast colleague today is 3-time Top Fuel world champion Don Garlits. Ormsby is now going to be on the pad, ready to run, the first car we see in our first pairing in Top Fuel. Will he be able to compete after this adventure that they've just been through successfully?
Well, that's a good question because they haven't had very much time. The engine is very hot. It reached almost 200 degrees there while they were trying to shut it down. They have been able to change the water 1 time. That's not really near enough. Tremendous amount of pressure on the crew chief, Lee Beard, right now.
A very anxious moment for Gary Ormsby and his crew.
And here is Ormsby's mount on the starting pad. Behind him, Don Garlits, a giant question mark. There was no time to take that engine apart, and it was making sounds, well, unlike any I've ever heard from a motor.
Well, Steve, this engine could have hurt itself internally very seriously, and the crew would not know it till after this burnout.
For an engine that was literally trying to destroy itself just moments ago, it sounds pretty good. For Gary Ormsby and the crew, well, Dame Fortune may be on their race team today, Gary Gerald.
Well, Ormsby now backing into position as he gets set for this run. Let's check the current standings in Top Fuel. Ormsby with a commanding lead, but it's interesting that defending Winston champion Joe Amato is well down on the list. He has not had a great deal of success this season.
Here in the second round, Gary Ormsby meets up with this car, driven by Earl Whiting. Picture a logger from Washington State, big, burly, tough guy. Well, you have got Earl Whiting. And this is one of his best performances in a long time. Gary Ormsby is living the dream season, but right behind him there, Don Garlitz, that could be a nightmare of a motor. We just don't know.
Earl Whiting is not aware of what happened in the pits earlier. This could be his best chance to beat Ormsby, Steve.
Ormsby in the far lane, completing the staging process now. Whiting rolls in on the near side and off the line. The jump goes to Ormsby. Engine performing flawlessly thus far. The reaction from Lee Beard as Gary Ormsby runs a 5:17, 280 miles per hour. It appears that that engine worked perfectly.
It sure did. Let's go for a ride with Eddie Hill through the burnout procedure. The big yellow car from Texas. And Don Garlitz, you can see how violent these machines are. You can almost feel the shake.
A lot more violent than the actual run. You see the tire gets big and out around in the burnout, which it does not during the actual run.
Matched up against Hill will be Dennis Forcell, who earlier put Joe Amato on the sidelines with a nice 5:20 run. Hill, looking for his first win this year, gave us a tremendous scare during the Winter Nationals at Pomona to kick off this season. Perhaps you remember this dramatic ride by Eddie Hill, who walked away amazingly without injury.
There's one thing that accident tells me. It's a tremendous statement for safety that it makes for our sport.
Well, not only did the 53-year-old Texan walk away without injury, his crew rebuilt a fresh race car, and he was competing the next day in the Winter Nationals. And here's the man who spearheaded that effort, Buzzy Carter. He is concerned here because Hill has experienced clutch problems repeatedly in events leading up to the Summer Nationals. And as Eddie Hill backs into position, let's go to the end of the strip. Gary Ormsby is with Steve Evans.
Well, after all of the trauma in the pits, many doubted that Gary Ormsby would ever make it to the starting line. If he did, the engine would be a ball of fire at half track. They were all wrong. Your best of the weekend, a 5:17.
Well, we had a little bit of a fiasco back there, Steve, in the pits, and we had to come to the starting line with a lot of heat in the engine, and I probably did the shortest burnout I ever done in my career and backed her up real fast. Kept it on the high side, cooling it down as much as I could, because we knew we'd have a problem with that heat, and it worked out for us.
Are you surprised?
I was surprised after all that heat. It's going to dogfight all day, though, all weekend.
And here comes the man that made it all happen. Crew Chief Lee Beard, what a job he has done with or without a computer.
Patience prevails, you know what?
Well, through the entire qualifying process, their computer had burned out. They were without the services of one, but things are certainly looking up now for Ormsby as we go back briefly on board with Eddie Hill, ready now for a second-round Top Fuel run against Dennis Forcell.
Watch Eddie Hill's left hand. He enriches the fuel moments before the start to give that engine that extra burst to leave the line. And leave the line it does.
And what a race it was. Both men run 5:18. Hill gets the victory, but it's a come-from-behind effort to eliminate Dennis Forcell. Eddie Hill at 283 miles per hour.
Dennis Forcell takes a slight starting line advantage, and it looks as though he might hold on to it as the cars travel down course side by side. What a drag race. But as the cars reach the top end of the race course, the superior power of the Fuzzy Carter motor began to pay off for Hill as he pulls into a very slight lead.
Well, you won't find him much closer than that as we go back on board for one more look. And watch off the left-hand side. You see Forcell. He had that much of an advantage. And here comes Eddie Hill to get the win. Now, let's check in with Steve Evans once again. He's with the victorious Hill.
Well, what a dandy of a drag race. A 5:18 for you, a 5:18 for Dennis.
We did win, didn't we?
Yes, you did.
All right. Hi, Mom. Boy, it's good to be back here. Boy, it's been so long since I've talked to you, I forgot what you look like.
Well, I'm still here waiting for you. Great job.
Oh, man, that felt good. Man, it's so nice to have 2 or 3 runs together where the car works. It's terrific. I love it.
Can you win this thing?
Looks like it's possible if we do it right and have good luck, huh?
You know, Gary, I just noticed something. I don't know if the scoop improves performance, but it offers a little shade in the staging lanes.
Well, there's one very happy Texan right now as he looks ahead to a semifinal round, and we watch Kim LaHaye, crew chief for her dad, Dick LaHaye, who's in a tremendous amount of discomfort because of a bad back and a broken rib. He has re-injured the rib that initially was broken last October, and it's amazing that he can sit in the cockpit of that highly vibrating machine right now with that pain.
Dick LaHaye, the 1987 Top Fuel champion, should look over in the other lane and see this man, Texan Frank Cook. But Frank is still back in the pit area, and it's there he will remain. His crew, not used to working together under this kind of pressure, just ran out of time preparing that Top Fuel dragster. So Dick LaHaye has a bye run here in the second round. Now, he could just idle that car down the racetrack, but I doubt that we'll see that. Dick LaHaye wants to prove his combination, and he wants lane choice. To get that, he has to run quicker than the driver he faces in the upcoming round. Kim LaHaye liked that number, Gary.
Indeed, she did. A 5:19 at 275 miles per hour for LaHaye. More Top Fuel competition from the Budweiser Summer Nationals coming up.
This is NBC's Sports World, and today it's brought to you by Ford and your Ford dealer. Have you driven a Ford lately? By Budweiser, Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you. By Goodyear Eagle Tires. Goodyear, because there really is a difference. And by Castrol, the motor oil engineered for today's smaller cars.
At the newest graduate from the alcohol funny car ranks into the nitromethane funny car competition. Don Gay Jr., who qualified impressively, has already eliminated Scott Coletta. His grandparents, Carl and Marie Gay, along with his proud father, Don Gay Sr., a longtime drag racer, extremely pleased with the great success in his first ever professional funny car competition. He is getting ready for a second round event coming up. The largest crowd in the 20-year history of the Summer Nationals on hand as they await now Gene Snow and Darrell Gwynn in Top Fuel. But before that run, let's check with Steve Evans, who's with Dick LaHaye.
You don't have to be a pro ball player to know what it's like to play in pain. And Dick LaHaye, I know your back has really been bothering you.
Yeah. Well, that first run, it shook real bad, and I think I got my rib again or my vertebrae, one or the other. It's going to be okay, though. If we can win rounds, I won't feel any pain.
Now, you had an opportunity there to not abuse yourself, to shut it off early. Instead, you ran a 5:19.
Well, you know, we got to make every round count and find out what's going on with the racetrack and so forth. And it was pretty smooth, that run, so I think we can work with it a little bit. And I just need to make 2 more rounds here.
I admire your courage.
Thank you very much, Steve.
You can see the pain in his eyes.
Unfortunately, that 5:19 by 1/100th of a second, not good enough for lane choice. That'll go to Eddie Hill. Meanwhile, our next pair getting into position, Gene Snow, who 19 years ago won the Summer Nationals in funny car competition, getting ready now for a Top Fuel run against Darrell Gwynn.
Gene Snow and Darrell Gwynn, Darrell from Miami, have both found the winner's circle this year. It was Snow down in Baton Rouge. It was Gwynn, the third race of the season, in Gainesville, Florida. So it's Gwynn in the far lane, Gene Snow in the near lane. Darrell Gwynn just about half the age of his opponent.
An obvious loss of traction for Snow in the near lane. Jerry Gwynn looking on as Darrell Gwynn will advance. He also smoked his tires partway down the strip, but a 5:32 does the job and advances him now to the semifinals. Gwynn will go against Ormsby. Ormsby with that 5:17 earlier has lane choice. The other pairing, LaHaye against Hill. Hill has lane selection.
But at this point, Gary, the lanes appear to be pretty equal. In fact, they're both just a little scary. Now, Joe Amato, you mentioned the defending Summer Nationals champion was eliminated in round 1. He could have loaded up his car and beat this huge crowd out of here. Not Amato, not his style. He hangs around, signs autographs, as this man has done many times, John Force. The body's still up on his Oldsmobile funny car. The engine now lit. It'll be latched down. The same procedure happening over in the far lane with his opponent, Kenny Bernstein. And veterans like Bernstein and Force know that anytime those bodies do come down, that engine is running, that, well, virtually anything can happen. Earlier this season, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, watch the car in the near lane. R.C. Sherman, he had lost traction, tried to correct. At this point, the body shifts enough to hold the throttle wide open as he powers across the racetrack, almost head-on into the wall.
And despite the devastation of a horrifying crash, R.C. Sherman was able to get away without serious injury and in fact was competing in the next event. Here at the Summer Nationals, he lost in the first round to Bruce Larson. You watch video like the crash of Eddie Hill and the crash of R.C. Sherman, and you can't help but wonder, how do these drivers beat these odds?
How do we survive a life-threatening situation like that? Well, the NHRA has many rules to cause these cars to be safe, starting off with this massive roll cage assembly to keep the driver from getting injured if the car goes upside down. To keep the driver inside of the car, we have these heavy-duty seat belts to restrain him. As we move forward in the car, we see where the driver's feet are located on the pedals. Well, we have a device here on the drive shaft to keep it from coming loose and hitting his feet. We have a ballistic blanket on the reverser in case it should explode. We have a special space-age titanium can in case the clutch should explode. And we have two restraining devices to keep it from blowing back and allowing the fragments to hit the driver. On the supercharger, we have a ballistic blanket, and it's tied to the engine through these heavy-duty straps. This will retain the shrapnel and the parts to keep them from coming back and hitting the driver. On the header pipes, we have a special exterior tube that keeps the glowing pipe from being exposed to nitromethane and oil. If the engine should have some sort of an internal problem and oil and nitromethane wants to exit the engine, we have these tubes to send it down into the frame rails and back to the catch tank at the rear. Now, if all of this fails and there is still a fire in the car, the driver has at his fingertips 22 pounds of halon. It's a very good fire retardant. He can push the button, the fire retardant is released, the fire goes out, it gives the driver time to stop and get out of the car. Well, now that we've explained to you how safe these cars are, who would like to take a ride?
I don't think you'll find any takers in this broadcast booth. By the way, Big, did you ever drive a funny car?
Never did and never will, Gary. A little too much fire for me.
On the line now, funny car competition. John Force, who has not had much success this season, going against the man who is back on track, fresh from a victory at Montreal. Kenny Bernstein beat Art Hindy in the first round.
And it's always special whenever these two cars get together. We've heard John Force on Sports World say before, quite honestly, I love to beat Bernstein in that big red car. Will he get a shot at him here?
Well, if he will, he's going to have to step on it quickly. Bernstein has the win with a 5:36, 272 miles per hour against Force's 5:54.
John Force's performance has been off today. He's lucky to have gotten this far.
We take a look back in the staging area now at Tom Hoover getting started, and the body work comes down. He's got a major challenge at hand as he'll be going against Don Prudhomme. Prudhomme, who earlier today in his first round win against Tony McCallum recorded the 300th round victory of his illustrious NHRA career.
Amazing 300 side-by-side wins. And remember, that's only counting back to the early 70s. Prudhomme has been racing over 30 years.
And one of his main adversaries, Kenny Bernstein, is with Steve Evans.
This car is doing some weird things with the front end.
Yeah, it's carrying it awful hard, and every time the clutch locks up another stage, Steve, it yanks the front end up, but it's doing a little more than just yanking it up. It's kind of like a porpoise. It's kind of hunting its way to go out there, and it's just giving me just enough traction up there in front to keep it going straight. If it goes crooked, we're in trouble.
Do you have to give it its head?
Well, you try for a little while, but then sooner or later, you got to bring it back under its reins, or it will just keep going the direction it's pointed, which usually isn't right.
Great job.
Thank you.
I don't want to drive it.
I'm remembering that invitation from Don Garlitz a bit earlier. We're watching the snake, Don Prudhomme, backing into position. What a tremendous record this man has had in the Summer Nationals. He is bidding today for an unprecedented 7th Summer Nationals victory. His opponent in this round will be Tom Hoover out of Minnesota. Hoover qualified in the number 5 spot in his '89 Pontiac Trans Am. He's in the near lane. Prudhomme on the far side as they stage and get ready to launch.
Tremendous acceleration from these machines, about 4 Gs right here off the starting line.
And getting sideways in the near lane is Hoover. Prudhomme advances. Crew Chief Mike Klober looking on in satisfaction of 541, 256 miles per hour for Don Prudhomme. For Tom Hoover, however, his day is now over, and we watch Don Gay Jr. pulling into the staging lanes for his upcoming run. More from the Budweiser Summer Nationals in a moment. The information being spit out of the computer comes from the top fuel dragster of Dick LaHaye. It's information that crew chief daughter Kim LaHaye hopes will translate into a semifinal victory against Eddie Hill, upcoming in the top fuel competition of the NHRA Budweiser Summer Nationals. Meanwhile, in the staging area, Bruce Larson, points leader in funny car competition, burning out, getting ready for a run against Ed the Ace McCullough. Larson leads the point standings, but Kenny Bernstein, fresh from his victory in Montreal, coming on strong to make it a two-man challenge. Don Prudhomme, you notice, is in the number 4 spot. Prudhomme right now is at the far end of the strip, and Steve Evans is alongside.
The lanes appear to be pretty equal.
Yeah, I think so, Steve. You know, just the temperature changes here, and it's just kind of hard to keep up with. But, yeah, I wasn't too unhappy with that. We just want to get the win in.
See you next round.
Great, thanks.
The thoughts of a man who has had tremendous success over the years at this racetrack. Meanwhile, Ed McCullough backs his Olds Cutlass into position. The Southern California driver had the second fastest qualifying time behind Prudhomme at a blistering 5:30. He goes up against points leader Larson. Larson has had 2 victories this season, the most recent coming in the Spring Nationals at Columbus, Ohio. He's in the near lane, McCullough on the far side.
Well, McCullough will be a popular boy with the likes of Bernstein, Oswald, Prudhomme if he can get rid of Larson here, and he just might.
McCullough has done it. A terrific start off the line, a hole shot that left Larson glued, and Bruce Larson is out of the competition despite the fact that Larson ran a 5:50 to McCullough's 5:56.
Well, McCullough makes a perfect picture book start, and Larson was asleep. What else can you say? Tremendous difference at the starting line. Even though Larson's car was quicker, it was not able to make up the difference.
So a big surprise as we watch Mark Oswald now get ready to go through the burnout process. Another former funny car champion heating those tires, trying to get them just as sticky as can be to utilize all the traction he can muster for this round against Don Gay Jr. Gay, who is coming out of the alcohol funny car competition in his first ever professional event, has been very much the talk of the competition. But look at this. Oswald, with a problem, is not backing up after the burnout, and for some mysterious and unexplained reason, he is out of the competition. Another stunning surprise. Steve?
Well, you're looking at the right foot of Ed the Ace McCullough, and that is what won that drag race. A 4.3 light with a funny car, incredible.
Well, you got to get lucky every now and then, Steve. You know, I mean, Larson, he's been running awful consistent. We're scared to death of this racetrack. We'd back the thing up. I said, I got to do everything I can do, and I cut a good light.
Have at it.
Thanks, Steve.
Well, cut a good light is an understatement as we watch Leonard Hughes, the crew chief for Mark Oswald, walking back toward the pit area. Oswald on the sidelines in a surprising development that means that this young man, Don Gay Jr., who beat Scott Coletta in the first round, now has the luxury of a bye run.
Well, the big question is, Gary, will he take it easy and save the parts, or will he stand on it?
That question about to be answered, and Don Gay Jr. is firmly standing on it. A 5:52, 264 miles per hour, puts him now into the semifinals against Ed McCullough, and Gay gets lane choice with that 5:52 to McCullough's 5:56. Prudhomme and Bernstein will square off in the other semifinal pairing, Bernstein with lane choice. Here's Steve.
Mark Oswald has been inspecting inside the funny car, guys, and apparently, Mark, the clutch pedal broke.
Well, it didn't break, but it's stuck over center. It appears it wouldn't disengage. There's no way of stopping the car. It just locks the clutch up to the motor. You just have to keep going.
So your only recourse was to get it down and out of the way?
Just get out of his way so he can make a run, you know.
Sorry to see that.
Thank you.
Well, the disappointment of that moment clearly etched on the face of Mark Oswald. We're inside the car of Bruce Allen. Pro stock competition coming up, and he is a man who has been on a mission lately. He won at the last event in Montreal. Bob Glidden, we mentioned earlier, dominating the category, and this the 9th of 19 NHRA events across the continent. But Allen with a terrific opportunity to eat into that point lead today after Glidden was upset in the first round.
Well, Bruce Allen's opponent, Kenny Koreski, in only his sophomore season in pro stock, is like a shark attack off of the starting line. Let's watch the man from Pennsylvania earlier when he faced off with Darrell Alderman, another driver with a big starting line reputation. But watch that yellow car and the yellow lights. Koreski reacted much quicker to the flash of yellow than did Darrell Alderman. And even though Kenny ran a slower elapsed time, he won that second round race, and in doing so, the right to meet Bruce Allen in the semifinals. Well, Bruce Allen, in that second round, ran up against another hole-shot-minded driver, Atlanta's Gary Brown. Watch the Oldsmobile in the far lane. Here's what happens when the driver tries to anticipate the tree and doesn't get away with it like Kenny Koretsky did. You see it bypass green, it went to red. That is automatic disqualification. You just can't cheat those infrared beams on the starting line.
So that sets the stage now for this semifinal showdown between Allen in the near lane and Koretsky on the far side. Allen will get the victory. A 7:42 for Bruce Allen against Koretsky's 7:51, even though Koretsky had a slight jump off the line.
Don Gay Jr., this has got to be a dream come true for a 20-year-old.
It sure is. Oh, it really is.
Your crew is leaving without you, by the way.
Leaving. They can get back, get it ready. I'll tell you. I got to give them all the credit. You know, they're making it go. We're getting our part of luck, too. And I'm racing the guys I always admired all my life, and we're getting past them, and I can't believe it.
Those first few runs, all that horsepower, a little scary?
Not as much as I thought it was going to be. It came, of course, it's always in the beginning, but it came pretty natural.
Okay, we'll get him a ride back. Gary, Don?
It has been a storybook kind of a day thus far for Don Gay Jr. Joe Lapone, meanwhile, inside his pro stock car, getting ready for his burnout as he'll have a match coming up here with Don Beverly. Whoa, a little sideways there on that burnout as he really lit up the rear end.
I think Joe Lapone does that on purpose. He just likes to have some fun with the car, dirt track it a little bit. Now, earlier in the second round, Joe Lapone from Pennsylvania beat the man who beat the man. Butch Leal, you'll remember, defeated Bob Glidden in round number 1. Well, he tried the hole shot technique again. Watch the car in the far lane. What is it they say about paybacks? This time he moved 1/100th of a second too quick, and the Christmas tree caught him with a foul start.
So that meant that Lapone now goes against this man, Don Beverly. Beverly in the second round met and defeated Don Kuntz. Let's take a look at how this one came down to the line.
It was a battle of Oldsmobiles side by side all the way down the quarter mile, with Beverly just eking out a victory over Don Kuntz. And here we go. It is Beverly in the far lane. It is Joe Lapone Jr. near lane, 2,350 pounds, 500 cubic inches maximum, 2 4-barrel carburetors, and racing gasoline.
And while it looked like Lapone may have moved first, it's clearly Beverly with a decisive victory, 7:46 to advance to the finals. It marks the first time in the 1989 NHRA championship season that Don Beverly has made a final round. His opponent will be Bruce Allen, and remember, Allen with a tremendous opportunity today to close that points gap on front-running Bob Glidden, who was sidelined in the first round.
A lot of attention in the pit area for Kenny Bernstein. It used to be the fans just brought the little 35-millimeter cameras. Now they got video cameras almost as big as ours. Bernstein's expert crew just about done with their work, getting ready to meet Don Perdome in the semifinals of funny car competition to come. But right now, it is time for the semifinal round in Top Fuel Eliminator, and again, we ride with Eddie Hill.
And in the far lane, just opposite Hill's cockpit, Dick LaHaye, the man with the injured back, backing into position, and there's a problem here. Fuzzy Carter concerned about something on Eddie Hill's car.
And he doesn't know what it is. He's shaking his head. I don't know whether he's going to tell Hill to shut off what he's showing him, some kind of a part. And I guess it's going to be all right. I don't see Hill shutting off the engine. He's going to race.
For a lot of men, this would disturb their concentration greatly. Not Eddie Hill. Not when you've driven at high speed as much as he has, not only on asphalt, but on water as well in the drag boat days. Now, Dick LaHaye did everything very gingerly. Did not make any jerky moves with that car. That tells you he's in pain even on the starting line. Eddie Hill is away, but he loses traction. Dick LaHaye will go to the final round at 5:15, 280 miles per hour to a losing 5:55. Let's go to Gary with Fuzzy Carter.
We saw you scrambling around earlier. Were you concerned or upset about something?
Yeah, I was. Like I say, we've been fighting this clutch steel for the last couple of races, and this arm fell off of it. It activates the third and fourth stage, and I seen it fall down on the ground, and I thought, well, LaHaye might smoke the tires, and we got to go for it. And all the clutch come in at one time on the deal, and it just blew the tires off of it. So I just gambled and went ahead and run him.
Don, if Eddie Hill recognized that piece when Fuzzy showed it to him, he knew what was going to happen.
Oh, he recognized it because that part is what holds that clutch from coming in through the use of an air cylinder. So Hill no longer had a 3-stage clutch. He had a 1-stage clutch that came in immediately when the car left the starting line.
And the beneficiary of Hill's problems is now with Steve.
Well, there's no better painkiller for Dick LaHaye. I'm not even sure this worked, but another round win, a final round berth in a 5/16. Can you make it?
We can make it, believe me. If they have to put me in the car, we'll make it.
Now, does the pain affect you at all in the cockpit driving?
Once a Kim straps me in there, it isn't too bad. And once the car starts, and I can't think about it. But it's when I pull the parachute in the shut-off area, boy, it just, I mean, it takes my breath away is what it does. It's amazing. If you've ever had a broken rib, you'll know what it's like.
Find some shade.
Thank you, Steve.
Hard to imagine the discomfort Dick LaHaye is in, but he is in the finals. And he's about to find out who he'll run in the finals for the Summer Nationals Championship. As he fights for a deep breath, we go back to the line as Gary Ormsby gets set to go up against Darrell Gwynn. Ormsby with 4 wins this year. Each time he's been in the finals, he's been in a winner. He needs a victory over Gwynn now to get a 5th opportunity of the season.
This vehicle of Ormsby's in the 4 lane is just truly amazing. It seldom loses traction. Once in a while, but not often. He gets about 3 times the tire life of anybody else, which means Don Garlits are not spinning the tire.
Well, he's not worried about the cost of the tires. It's traction is the name of the game in this business, and traction he's got.
Traction good for both men, and Ormsby, who won the Summer Nationals in '87, will have another opportunity as he advances to the finals with a 5:18, 281-mile-per-hour run. The final pairing, Gary Ormsby against Dick LaHaye, and the injured LaHaye has lane choice. Meanwhile, in the funny car pits, the Snake, Don Prudhomme, warming up his motor. He has a semifinal challenge against another 4-time funny car champion, Kenny Bernstein, upcoming in the NHRA Budweiser Summer Nationals. In New Jersey, our colleague Don Garlits, the 3-time world top fuel champion, getting in a little extracurricular duty earlier this day. A lot of autographs being signed. I'm Gary Gerald, also along with Steve Evans, and we're looking ahead now to the funny car semifinals with this tremendous crowd that's on hand at Old Bridge Township Raceway Park. Southern California veteran Ed the Ace McCullough backing his Olds Cutlass into position. He had a very weak burnout a few moments ago. Very little tire smoke. Got to wonder if that will play any kind of a role in this semifinal funny car matchup against Don Gay Jr. Gay, of course, is having a storybook weekend in the Summer Nationals. Steve now is with Gary Ormsby.
Well, Gary, a 5:18 has cost you lane choice, but the way things are going today, I'm not sure much can stop you or discourage you.
Well, I don't know about stopping us, Steve, but as far as discouraging us, nothing has discouraged us yet. We've kind of overcame some adversity so far today to end up in this final round, so we'll see what happens.
A wry smile on the face of Gary Ormsby, the top fuel season points leader, as we watch Ed McCullough get ready in the near lane for this run against Don Gay Jr. Gay has sidelined Scott Coletta and Mark Oswald, but he goes up in smoke this time, and McCullough will advance to the finals. But a look of concern on the face of crew chief Bernie Federley. A 5:64 run for McCullough. Not a strong performance, but it's enough to get him into the finals. And Don Gay's storybook rookie opening weekend in funny car competition is history. Mike Klober, crew chief for Don Prudhomme, getting ready to fire up the power plant for the man who has owned this racetrack over the years, 6 times a Summer Nationals champion. Now, Don Garlits, we just mentioned that McCullough had a relatively weak burnout, very little tire smoke. How important is this function that we watch these drivers go through before every round?
I think it's critical to the performance of these cars. They're doing 2 things. They're getting the engine up to the proper temperature, But more important, they're getting the tires up to the proper temperature. And if they don't get that temperature in the tires, they will get wheel spin down course. And as you noticed on McCullough's run, there was a little bit of smoke coming off of the bottom of those tires. He didn't get loose, but he could have. And you saw the performance fall off tremendously from the run before.
Now, we saw Prudhomme's burnout. Let's take a look at Kenny Bernstein. A look at that trail of smoke. That would indicate that he has generated a tremendous amount of heat.
Both of these cars have made excellent burnouts and should have the tires up to the proper temperature for the run in order to maintain traction.
Now, let's go back just a few moments ago and take a look at McCullough. This was his burnout, and notice that there was very little, if any, tire smoke generated.
Oh, he got no tire heat whatsoever, and so this was bad for the performance.
But nonetheless, he was able to get the victory because Gay lost traction. McCullough is in the finals, and Steve Evans is now alongside the man known as the Ace.
Well, Ed McCullough, after that smokeless burnout, Don Gay going up into smoke may be the break you needed.
Well, the racetrack is awful hot out there, and you come through the water, and the tire dries up. I knew what it did. The tire dried up, didn't smoke the tire. Put a lot of heat in clutch, so, you know, we back up and hope it works.
It was the heat in the clutch that concerned us.
Well, I don't know what it ran, but, I mean, it wasn't any...
560s.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, you know, it was just a puppy out there, so, you know, when it's your day, it's your day.
Indeed. Well, Ed the Ace McCullough may be holding all of the cards.
Just a puppy. The man and his car, the four aces in the finals. Will it be Bernstein or Prudhomme against McCullough? We're about to find out. Two of the grand champions of NHRA funny car competition of all time off the line. Problems for Prudhomme, and Kenny Bernstein is on a roll. The consistency again, a 5.40 run at 270 miles per hour. And for Don Prudhomme, the man who's won so many times in the Summer Nationals, this will not be his year. The final pairings, McCullough against Bernstein, and Bernstein with that 540 round will have lane choice. Back in New Jersey, the NHRA Budweiser Summer Nationals looking ahead to the finals in Top Fuel. Gary Ormsby's crew, routine maintenance supervised by crew chief Lee Beard. But right now it's time for our Pro Stock final. It matches Bruce Allen against Don Beverly. We're watching Don Beverly complete his burnout. Beverly, who is making his first final round appearance of the 1989 championship season, has a new transmission in his Olds Cutlass, while Allen has a new clutch assembly in his Chevy Beretta. Steve Evans was there when it went in.
One of the truly wonderful things about NHRA Championship drag racing is that the pit area has always been open to the public. Fans could get in and get up close to the drivers and the crews. Well, in the last few years, a number of the teams have gone to bannering off their pit area. You can still come up to the banner and look over and try to see what's going on. And I don't blame them. There's a lot of important critical work going on. Well, take a look at this. This is the Bruce Allen Rear and Morrison Pro Stock pits. These are not their family and friends. These are fans, because they have stated publicly they will never put a banner up around their truck and trailer. They want everybody to have a picture. They want everybody to see their beautiful car up close. In fact, obviously, they have no secrets in the bell housing department, because anybody that wanted to could just come in here and watch Bruce Allen himself install a new clutch. So hats off to the Rear and Morrison guys. They are really still in the spirit of drag racing.
Unique opportunity for race fans to get a good close-up view of activity in the pits. Allen against Beverly. Allen in the near side, Beverly far lane, staged and ready for a Pro Stock final. And for the third time this year, Bruce Allen has a Pro Stock win. The Cajun Nationals, the Grand Nationals in Montreal, and now the Summer Nationals in New Jersey.
Bruce Allen takes a slight starting line advantage, and he needed it because Beverly was hot today, running good. And it was that starting line advantage that put Allen into the winner's circle.
And Allen's win has cut Bob Glidden's point lead nearly in half.
Well, Bruce Allen has capped one of his finest driving jobs ever with a 744 and nice hole shot to go with it. Great job.
Been a good day. If you wrote a script for today, this is what it would have been.
That's right. Get Glidden out early for points reasons.
Yeah, everybody that was even close to us, unfortunately for them, there's a bunch of tough competitors, and it's not just a Bob Glidden show out here. There's a bunch of real tough guys out here. Don Beverly did a great job, got to the finals.
Again, great job.
Thanks.
So So Bruce Allen, whose first pro stock win was here in the Summer Nationals 1985, has done it 4 years later. Ready now for the funny car final. Kenny Bernstein against Ed McCullough.
And even though there's over $30,000 to the winner and a lot of prestige winning the Summer Nationals, these drivers are thinking points, just like Bruce Allen is. And the points will go to Kenny Bernstein for the final round. Bernstein 541 to Ed McCullough's 550. Gary is with Dale Armstrong.
Dale. Well, we talked about consistency the last two events, Montreal and now here in the Summer Nationals. You guys are back.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope it continues this way. That was a heart stopper there. I thought we were behind, but he pulled it out on the top end, I guess.
Terrific run.
Thank you.
That wasn't an illusion. They were behind, Don Garlett.
I mean, they were behind big time. McCullough made a beautiful start off the starting line, but look at those tires trying to get loose. But he maintains that lead, and I'll tell you what, Bernstein needed that 541 to get there first. What a drag race.
544th Summer Nationals championship in the last 5 years, and the fact that he has now moved closer to season points leader Bruce Larson. Meanwhile, Gary Ormsby backing into position after his burnout. The man who leads the points, a 4-time winner this year. What a roll he's been on, facing the hurting Dick LaHaye.
Don, you have raced with a bad back. What's he going through?
Oh, the pain is just unbelievable. He can't possibly have real good concentration. He's not thinking about the run. He's thinking about his back.
No matter what he says.
No matter what he says.
All right, there is Gary Ormsby waiting for Dick LaHaye. LaHaye is still moving forward in that far lane. Certainly, these two cars deserve to be in the final round. No luck involved, really, for either one of them. They have earned the right to meet for the Summer Nationals crown. Ormsby and LaHaye, the last two cars of this classic East Coast drag race. The smile on Kim's face says it all. Dick LaHaye, her father, has won the Summer Nationals with the best elapsed time of the entire day, 5.11, a huge speed at 282. Let's go to Gary on the line.
I suppose none of us can appreciate how much your dad was hurting on that run.
He was real sore, and it shook real hard first round and hurt his back again, and he was hurting pretty bad, but he came through real well.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
What hard work that young woman poured into this team's success today, and they won even though Ormsby moved first.
Yes, you can tell LaHaye gave up some starting line advantage, but it didn't last long. LaHaye's motor has been running to perfection all day long, while Ormsby's car has not performed as it normally does. And LaHaye takes a nice win as you see the tires start to smoke on Ormsby's car.
Congratulations, champion.
Thank you, Steve. I appreciate it. Whew, what
5:11 did it?
Is that right? Thank the Lord for that. My God. I just, I'm lost for words. I want to be able to thank everybody. I mean, whether it's the Miller Brewery and Larry Miner and Oldsmobile and my crew, because I want to tell you what, they made the call the last time.
Absolutely.
100%.
What could you do on that starting line to try to take your mind off the pain and the pain you knew you would endure when the parachute hit?
Once the motor starts, you can't think about it. All I can think about is winning the race. And I just thank the Lord that I was able to do it. I mean, it worked out.
Indeed it did. You bet.
Thank you very much.
So the man who got his first career victory 9 years ago in the Summer Nationals at this track will now enjoy a subdued victory celebration. He has narrowed the points lead of Gary Ormsby in top fuel, but it's still Ormsby very much in command by 1,348 points. Our congratulations to our Budweiser Summer Nationals champions, Dick LaHaye, Kenny Bernstein, and Bruce Allen. For Don Garlitz and Steve Evans, I'm Gary Jarrow. So long from New Jersey.
Last weekend, during qualifying at the Mile High Nationals in Denver, Colorado, Don Gay Jr., in only his second professional event, survived one of the worst fires in NHRA history. NHRA Safety Safari, along with Don Prudhomme, who had been qualifying with Gay, were responsible for extricating him from the car. He is currently recuperating in a Houston hospital, and the prognosis is for a complete recovery.